Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator news and updates. We've only got a couple to talk about today, but there's some really big ones that I want to talk about today. So make sure that you guys stick around for this one. See you in a second. If you are interested in acquiring any of my overkills tutorial guides from Microsoft Flight Simulator or simply interested in supporting the channel, please consider joining us on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future releases that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below.
Overkill simulations, watch us as we fly. Overkill simulations, a thrill will never die.
All right, so the first one up that I want to talk about is ActiveSky. This is a huge one that I'm actually kind of surprised took this long to come about, and not because of the fault on the developer. I can only imagine what it took to basically completely rewrite this software from the ground up, given the fact it couldn't be ported from any other software. I'm surprised that it took so long to come about, simply because of the benefit that it will bring to the simulator. Again, I know that's sort of contradicting, but bear with me because I totally get how I don't blame the developer, but I'm surprised it took the developer so long to get it out. I'm just saying that, you know, it's shocked to see it 3 years later, right? Almost 4 years later. So why is this such a big deal? For those of you who do not know, ActiveSky is something that was used very, very heavily, especially like in X-Plane and things like that. It brings a ton of weather features to the simulators that are extremely valuable. Their coding and use of environmental impacts far surpass anything in any default simulator weather system that I have seen, and anything even in any of the weather systems that we currently have third party to the simulator. So let's sort of like talk about some of the things that they do. So first off, it creates a completely different immersive experience with the weather system as it generates its own. Now, obviously using the in-model, my understanding, Scout's honor. Okay, even though I wasn't ever a scout, by the way, but this is just my understanding, is that it still uses the in-game models, right? So the in-game available textures. And again, I'm emphasizing that this is just to my understanding at the moment. If I am wrong, by all means, if I'm wrong, that's even better. But it uses the in-game textures available to create a custom weather system that we don't currently see in Microsoft Flight Simulator or in the other simulators based on the current weather information. But it's not limited to current weather information. It can also be used with historical data, whether it be the last hour, last week, last day. All that information can be pulled up. It also has a direct integration with SimBrief and Navigraph that's going to be available upon release. Now, why is that important? That means that it can actually create and generate the weather system that you are being reported to on your flight plan when you create a SimBrief flight plan. Now, obviously, yes, live weather will work just fine. So if you're just someone who wants to stick with live weather, that's perfect. Excuse me, sorry. But even I personally have seen situations where the live weather in the sim does not meet with the live METAR is showing in the real world. So that is another big piece of this. So let's talk about some of the really big features that ActiveSky really brings to the simulator and why I'm super excited for this one. This is going to be a massive change, you guys. And it's also going to put some pressure on other third-party developers depending on what their flight models currently do and how those flight models are going to interact. But we'll see. So first off, you're obviously going to have available live weather and historical weather data, as we just discussed a minute ago. Winds, gusts, variability control, both on surface and aloft, up to 60,000 feet. You're going to have accurate weather data and weather generation up to 60,000 feet. The only thing that I think of in Microsoft Flight Simulator that you might intentionally go that high on, actually, I don't know. I mean, and I'm saying intentionally, not just goofing around, being silly. Like, obviously, you can do that with a ton of different planes, but that's impressive. Cloud layer control, precipitation control, ground snow cover control. So now the ground snow cover is actually going to be accurately generated on airports that have ground snow currently in their conditions. So that's going to be another big one. And that's going to also increase the immersive effect because it's going to create more of a need for things like, I don't know, the GSX de-icing. Although I had to admit the last couple times I personally have used GSX, it's been pretty buggy. I don't know if that's because I'm on Sim Update with caveat, I'm always on the beta. You can bet your money funny that if you see one of my videos, I'm on the beta version of Microsoft Flight Simulator. I haven't fallen back in a while, so that could be it. But I've had some really buggy experiences with GSX. But anyway. So de-icing and things like that might actually become a requirement here, depending on how well it integrates. At the very least, hopefully we'll be able to see those big, really cool snow bursts when you get reverse thrust and things like that going along. Temperature and humidity control, barometric pressure control, visibility situation through advanced humidity control and fog layer generation, and intelligent visibility, graduation, and smoothing, which means that the environment is not going to just be one or the other, but it's going to gradually shift as it should and as it would in real life over to from one situation to the next. Now, when it says control, it means that both the application will be able to control all these aspects, as well as you are able to create custom weather systems if you wish. So you'll have that ability if you want to just on the fly change what the weather system is. Okay. Cloud scene scattering and variation control for a variety or for variety within the past or within the preset depiction area. Okay, so again, being able to select a current weather system and have that weather system expand its variety and not be so static based on the weather preset that has been selected. So if you choose like a thunderstorm system, it's not just going to be bam thunderstorm, it's going to actually slowly fade out, which I will say in that aspect, I think Microsoft Flight Simulator has gotten actually a lot better about doing over the last year, but still needs some fine tuning. Let's see here. What was the other one? Transition handling. Okay. Updates conditions smartly depending on the flight plan and stage of flight. So again, you're not going to get that sudden thunk and all of a sudden everything's changed, and that can be a real big immersion breaker. Active air effects. So here we go. Clear air turbulence, broken and overcast cloud layer turbulence. Internal Microsoft Flight Simulator turbulence compatibility, updrafts, downdrafts, microbursts, thunderstorm based turbulence and draft effects. So from the weather changing very dramatically, and then gusts and winds variation and gust related turbulence. So the turbulence is probably going to be the big one that I think is going to be either something that we as the simmers in Microsoft Flight Simulator specifically are going to either love or we're going to hate it. It really depends. And I think what that's going to determine, so as I was talking about earlier, I think it's going to be based on what aircraft you're flying and what modeling the developer has done in relationship to said turbulence and to said weather environmental impacts. So all said and done and all wrapped up into a single piece here, I am thoroughly excited for ActiveSky. ActiveSky was a huge one to have in X-Plane. It was very, very beneficial. It did a ton, and it did far more behind the scenes than what we just talked about here and whatever you just read on the box. When you purchased it back then, it always did a lot. And so I'm really excited to see what this one brings to the sim. I think it's going to help things smooth out quite a bit. Now, my only concern is, again, every weather system that I have personally, gosh, I'm sorry, guys. I've been battling a headache all day long. Personally tried, had a hard time integrating with the simulators. I will say that I do remember even with X-Plane that ActiveSky could sometimes cause some FPS drops, or maybe not FPS drops, but framing. Latency, maybe I guess is the better term. But in my days of flying X-Plane 11, the computers weren't what they are. The internet connection wasn't what it is today. So we'll see. We'll have to see how it integrates. We don't have any kind of release date as of yet. I know it's right around the corner is what I'm going to say. And I don't have any kind of price yet. But I would not be surprised if ActiveSky came anywhere between $20 and $40. Purely speculation. I have no way of knowing that. I have no insight into the pricing. That is pure speculation. That is just me guessing, giving an educated guess, knowing what it does, knowing what it used to be, knowing how well it operates, knowing the features that it brings and the value that it truly did bring to previous simulators. That would just be a reasonable guess, I think. And personally, for me, as long as they stay within that window, I will absolutely grab it. But anyways, so that is ActiveSky. It is coming. Oh, and by the way, Flight Simulator 2024 support is labeled as being developed. So they are going to continue the development process through 2024. But guys, remember, I also see that come up a lot while we're on that for just a second. Remember, just high level, that based on what we've been told thus far, for 99% of your add-ons, if they work with 2020 Flight Simulator, they should also work with 2024. Okay, so just remember that. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, so don't skip forward yet. Even if you're not going, you guys might want to check some of this stuff out. So if you guys are interested in joining us at the FSExpo 2024 in Las Vegas, Nevada, I have a list of some of the developers and participants who are going to be coming down. And I want you guys to have an idea of some of those events and what they look like. So for example, let's talk about some of the things that you get to do. Okay, and I'm going to keep touching on this. And by the way, if any of you are interested in registering for the FlightSim Expo, they also have deals on travel as well as deals on hotels. Everything can be found on the FlightSim Expo 2024 website, which there is a link to my personal affiliate link, if you will, down in the description below. If you guys want to check that out, it definitely helps everybody out involved, including yourself. But anyway, let's talk about some of the things that you can do there. It's not just about walking around, checking out all the latest gear and seeing announcements from what things are going to be coming in flight simulation. Okay, you get to try out new hardware, absolutely. You get to see some of the new software, absolutely. You get to see a lot of the announcements of new aircraft, new scenery, new developments, new things that are coming down the road in flight simulation. Remember that the FSExpo is absolutely not by any means, shape, or form of the word limited to Microsoft Flight Simulator. In fact, the first one that I went to, Microsoft Flight Simulator, wasn't a thing. Well, 2020 wasn't a thing. We don't talk about the old one. It was too old at that point. Anyway, but there's a lot of really cool stuff you could do. One of those other things is also seminars. And those seminars can include anything from real-world aviation training, using that carefully, real-world aviation information, procedural information on how to operate an aircraft as close as you can to the real world inside a flight simulation. There's also things that will absolutely get you into real-world aviation, speakers and hosts, and some trainings, some stuff that, some preliminary stuff that might, pique your interest as far as getting into programs that will help you get into real-world aviation. And there's also some really cool events that they do. And for this particular event, let's talk about a couple of things that are already being talked about here. On Friday is usually when most of the seminars will happen. We'll talk about some of the people who will be there. But there's also some really cool stuff that you get to do. So some of those things, for example, can be like, I think that they are talking about doing some supercar rentals, renting some supercars and going out and tearing it up on the track. And then there's going to be a tour, I believe, of an air traffic control tower. If you guys are interested in stepping into that and seeing what that looks like, that would be really cool. That's the one I'm going to try to get on. I love my supercars, but I want to see a control tower even more. We have one at TIA, but I don't know. Something different about going somewhere else. But let's talk about some of the people who will be there, by the way, so you guys can also see that it's not just about Microsoft Flight Simulator. So, for example, you're going to have Bluebird Simulations, FlightSim.com is going to be there, Nimbus Simulation Solutions, Say Intentions AI. I know you guys are definitely catching wind of Say Intentions. By the way, yes, Beyond ATC will be at the expo as well. WinWing is going to be there, Simfly.io, Navigraph, SimWork Studios, the developers of the Kodiak 100 as well as the PC-12. So if you guys have questions, I think they also have the RV8, RV10. Combat Pilot, Max Flight Stick. That's a different one. I actually had to look them up because I hadn't seen them before. Toby is going to be there. SoFly, X-Plane, so Laminar Research, if you guys are interested in talking to them, and many, many more, you guys, I can promise. It's always a really awesome event. It's a really good time to get the chance to bounce ideas off each other, as well as hear from some really cool developers, and just go ahead and be around people who are like-minded. The Rio Hotel, as you guys can see here on the screen, is an absolutely beautiful hotel. The bulk of the FlightSim Expo will be held at the hotel itself, so if you guys are interested, again, register now, book your trip now, and you can get a room right at the Rio. And it's so nice when they do that, because you can go downstairs, go to the show, you get tired, go back up, maybe come back down a couple hours later if you want. But it's a really good time. I met a lot of really cool people, especially viewers like yourselves right now. And that was probably the most fun out of the whole thing, was getting to talk to people like it and be like, overkill, you're overkill. It was really cool. So anyways, want to make sure that you guys are aware, FlightSim Expo 2024, June 21st through the 23rd. Make sure that you guys, again, use the link down in the description if you're interested in checking it out. All right, last up on the list here, you guys, Pimax is at it again, but they are not telling anybody, including us as their they're whatever you want to call it, our collaborators. But tomorrow we get to find out what the big hush hush, big announcements, big everything is all about. Pimax Frontier 2024 is what they're calling it. And tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, they're going to be doing a live stream in which they announce the new Pimax products coming out in 2024. Hopefully after that, I will get a ton more information that will give me access to share with you guys. I do know that I've been in contact with my Pimax representative, and they've told me the same thing, that yes, I'll be able to show you guys some really cool stuff, but they still wouldn't even tell me what it was. It's really frustrating. So again, tomorrow, 11 a.m., that's April 15th, 11 a.m. at 2024, Pimax Frontier at the PimaxVR YouTube.com. So it's actually YouTube.com at PimaxVR. I'll have a link to their channel down in the description below, guys. Make sure that you guys book that if you can, even if you can just throw it on your cell phone and watch it while you're at your desk or at your work. You know, I think it's going to be a really cool idea. That's what I'm planning on doing. Hopefully I'll be able to check that out. It's during my work day as well, but I'm going to do my best to see as much of it as I can. And I hope to see as many of you guys there as possible. I'm really excited to see what they come up with. Now, yes, I told you guys before, I am absolutely a Pimax fanboy. But how do you become a fanboy? You become a fanboy by buying the same product multiple times and enjoying it every single time. I have made no secrets of Pimax and their flaws in the past. You know, I've called them out before for sometimes releasing products too soon. I've called them out before for announcing products and not having anything in stock. You know, I'm very honest and very brutal, and my Pimax rep knows that, but I still stand by Pimax. I love them. I think they're the best, especially right now at this moment, given everything that happened, especially with Varo jumping out of the consumer market. I think they're the best in the biz at the moment. So make sure that you guys tune in tomorrow. I mean, I want you guys to think about all the things that have came with the crystal. The things came with the crystal were, and Pimax specifically is what I'm referring to, not industry-wide, Pimax-wide. Pimax introduced with the crystal their eye tracking, their inside-out tracking. They're no longer requiring a base station, the inside-out tracking. Now they actually have in beta right now on the Pimax crystal, you can tap the headset and it'll actually activate the outside camera so you can see the outside world. Give it another tap and you go back to only seeing the VR. So there's been a lot of developments, and of course those incredibly gorgeous QLED displays and the incredibly fine resolution that comes with the crystal. So the crystal was certainly a big bang. So obviously the Frontier is going to be, whatever's coming has to be a step up and a build off of that. So I am very, very excited for Pimax and to seeing what they come out with. I'm really glad to be a part of this. By the way, they will also be at the FlightSim Expo 2024 if memory serves. So make sure you guys stop by that booth there as well. So as always, guys, stay safe and healthy. I hope you found the video useful. Again, 11 a.m. tomorrow. Tune in for that, guys, on YouTube. Link down in the description below. I'll see you in the next one. Take care, folks.